Ben öncelikle Profesör Doktor Gürel Çetin hocamızı davet edeyim. Hocam hoş geldiniz. Buyurun. Ardından Theo'yu davet edeyim alkışlarınızla. Theo, I'll give you this mic. Okay. Thank you. Claudio Limacher alkışlarınızla. Ve alkışlarınızla Philipp Stelzer. Sayın hocam sahneyi size bırakıyorum. Başarılar.
Does my one work? Yeah.
Evet, günün son session. We are supposed to do this in English, I guess. Okay. Well, this is the last session of the day, but not the. It's the most important, let's say. Well, we have three valuable experts on revenue management as well as channel management here. Claudio, Philipp, and Theo, I will also leave the floor for you to introduce yourselves, which might be a better approach. But I will still ask my first question to you, Claudio. Considering a new hotel or any other customer to buy your services, what are the characteristics of a suitable customer that you can really make a difference? Okay, the characteristics of the hotels that you can contribute better, let's say, and how much is that contribution? I mean, can you describe the difference between before your services and after your services? You can also give some examples of the 4,500 hotels that you serve.
So thanks a lot. So those were three questions. First of all, I'm Claudio. I'm CEO of Yield Planet. We provide channel management and revenue management solutions. The headquarters is in Warsaw in Poland, but we have offices in Poland, in Switzerland, and in Spain. To deep dive into the topic right away, like there's very often in my view, a misconception that a revenue management system is only good for a big hotel. Definitely not. A revenue management system, you can profit with smaller hotels as well. For me, there are two really important factors that you need to take into consideration when you're looking at a revenue management system. One of them is the yieldable business that you actually have, and the other one is how many sellout nights do you have? Because those are the ones where you actually can make money. Like with yieldable business, what we mean is how much of the reservation, how many of the reservations, or how much revenue of those reservations comes through channels where with the price you can influence the bookings. So for example, a tour operator with fixed rates, we've heard it before, those are not dynamic rates. Therefore, your yield management, your revenue management on a systematic basis doesn't really influence these bookings. The same goes for a lot of the MICE bookings that you have. The same goes for a lot of the corporate business that you have if you do that on fixed rates. So if you have a hotel with less than 50% of yieldable business, I would focus first on making this business dynamic rather than implementing an RMS. Now, obviously that goes a bit with the size of the hotel. If you have a very big hotel, 200, 300, 400 rooms, and you have 50% or even less, you still have a lot of rooms where an RMS makes sense. And the other factor, when we really talk about the sellout nights, because that's where you can make a lot of money. So if you don't sell out at least 20 nights a year, an RMS is probably not the one that gives you a really good ROI. So again, the focus here first is probably on making sure that you have the distribution set up in a way that you do sell out at least 20 nights a year, and then start to implement an RMS. Now the third question, I think, is the hardest one to answer, because the question was, how much more money do you make by implementing an RMS? I'm sorry, a bit easier in the question. The really big problem here is not to measure how much money you make after implementation. The really big problem is compared to what? This is 2022. Like, is 20% more revenue this year compared to last year any good? In my book, not. That should come automatically. You don't need an RMS for that. The other problem is, particularly here in Turkey, is 20% compared to 2019 any good? You have almost 100% inflation. It's not. This is really a big problem to compare an RMS. We had this problem before. I tell you the tale of a company that was over 12 months in negotiations with one of our competitors, and they promised them to get 5% revenue uplift, and they were very happy with that. But the negotiations went on and went on and went on, and after 12 months, they checked. Without the RMS, they made 7%. So it is very, very hard to put a real number on this comparison. So because there is no good comparison, and particularly in the times that we are right now, it is very hard to compare that.
Let me maybe, Claudio, add one thing that what you mentioned in the, I think, second question was that size doesn't matter. I'm just talking about my HQ glasses right now, so we're specialized in rate intelligence. And what I can tell you is that our smallest customer is really just one single chalet in Switzerland. So they got one single chalet in Switzerland. They sell it per night for around 3,000 francs. And what they're doing, as they're not alone, they're going to compare themselves with the 5-star luxury suites of all the 5-star hotels in Switzerland. Biggest customer in regards to rooms is MGM Grand with 5,000 rooms. So size doesn't matter. It just matters on the business you're doing to choosing the right tech.
Actually, it's the good hotelier is the one who is a savvy operator. In fact, actually, he's experimenting things. He's checking the RM if it's a rule-based. Because there are type of revenue management systems. It's rule-based or artificial intelligence or machine learning, for example. So it depends on the hotelier on how much he wishes to experiment into the RM system and actually make it different from the competition.
Well, thank you guys for the honest question. One normally expects a inflated success story, but Claudio was very honest about the comparison issue. But the literature on the average, there is this lady in Cornell University that makes revenue management research, and she says at least 5%, up to 25% when you go into dynamic pricing. Based on her research, of course. Anyways, well, you mentioned something about the benchmark, right? Comparing your hotel with the others. Well, that just came up to my mind. How should we define our benchmark? How should we determine the competition that we compare our prices with? What should be the benchmark for that?
So talking about finding my right competitors, right?
Yes, to compare your property.
I guess there is several views. Obviously, no one is alone. I guess that's what we all realized in the last 2 years, that no one is alone, even if my property is in the middle of the nowhere. There is other properties in the middle of nowhere which maybe share the same USP as I have, so I'm competing with them as well. This would be one option, like focusing on USPs. When we talk about these USPs, mainly the USP is not what the general manager of the property is saying. The USP is coming from your review scores and from your reviews. So the ones check your reviews to find out what's like the best thing of your own property. And then of course, geographical wise. So check your USPs. whether this is a lot of mice facilities, whether this is fabulous organic live cooking breakfast, as I heard they offer here, and of course, geographical wise. There's also nice algorithms out there right now which can give you or help you to find the right competitors.
Sorry, maybe just to add on that, I think there's two things that Philipp just said. Like, geography is obviously important, but as we just heard on his own example from before, a chalet in Switzerland might not have competitors only in that village or in that valley. People go to either St. Moritz or to Gstaad to stay in Switzerland.
Not in the same country.
And sometimes not even in the same country. Yes, and I think that's what we often see. Obviously, in a city that makes more sense. You have a very well-defined area that you go to. If it goes more in the leisure segment, it is slightly different. So that the geography doesn't only mean a very narrow, nice circle around you, but it can very often be a wider circle. And the other thing is STR, short-term rentals, vacation rentals, or urban serviced apartments. They're as much a competitor of a hotel as the other way around. It's a bit harder to compare, but certainly not. It shouldn't be left out to compare.
Well, there is this common shared issue about how to define your competition. If you don't exist, where would your customers go? That's also an easy way to define your competitive set. Well, Philipp, another question for you. I'm coming to you, Theo, concerning the channel management. I'm going to ask you the tools that you supply to your clients in doing a better, more effective revenue management. What are the tools to include into the system?
So I think basically we should separate between, I guess that's what we talked about earlier as well, separate between what are big international chains, tech stack-wise, are using, comparing to what local independent chains and independent hotels are using in regards to the tech stack. And personally, I would say we have right now the best time, and really the time where individual properties are super, super close in regards to the tech stack comparing to international hotel chains. Why is it like that? Because there is flexible and there's the availability. The tools are here. We never had so much hotel tech as we have it right now accessible for individual properties. Now back to the question. A big topic is demand, right? And the global hotel chains operating multiple properties in just one city, they had always a big advantage in the past. They have one property in the city center, they have one property around the airport, they have a property around certain event venues. So they realize first when demand is coming to a destination, right? But now there is tools available which can help you to track demand on a very early stage, like deep learning tools to track demand, even to forecast demand. One example which we as HQ Revenue developed together, I guess also with Theo, it's also available with, I'm not sure if Sasha is still here, with Busy Rooms, is a feature we call website demand. We rolled this out also with Dedeman Hotels, I guess 1 year ago. So they can clearly identify which day or which days are the hottest days in regards to the traffic on my website. So you clearly can find out, okay, there on this and that day, there's a bus on my website, something is going on, and they can easily compare if there's like this bus also creating bookings. So talking about this advantage, what the big and global chains had in the past, even individual hotels have the possibility to be there right now. That's one of these things. I guess, and demand is, the next to forecasting, the big thing these days.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, thank you. We know that the revenue management systems, they look into the history, they look into the forecast, and they look into the competition in order to determine the best rate for your channels to offer. What other tools that you just mentioned some of them? Do you think some other data might also be included into that, such as the events in the city or the website traffic, so that these systems can make better judgments? What are these data available out there that can be integrated to the revenue management system?
There is now a tool also out there. I don't do any name droppings, but I think it's a pretty funny algorithm, I need to say. So imagine you have an individual property in a city like Istanbul or somewhere else, and the algorithm behind this, I would not say it's a revenue management system, but maybe a pricing system, is they track and they scan like the radius around your own property and detect the global hotel chain. So they detect the Accors, they detect the Marriotts within a radius of just 2 or 3 kilometers around my own property. They detect the Wyndhams, and what they're doing, they just float the rates exactly how the big and global chains are doing that. I'm not sure if this is the right or the wrong way, but it's a pretty funny way to do revenue management. I guess that's a pretty funny one. Even talking about chatbots, talking about upselling tools these days. This was like back in the days, big stuff for global hotel chains, and all that is available right now.
I think to generalize what the pandemic really did here is to take the ability away to just say, last year, this time around, we did that and this happened. Because this type of forecasting is now really broken, because the last 2 years of data, like in our revenue management system, we rely heavily on algorithms. And yes, one of them is looking at what happened last year. But what we've done predominantly is deleting the last 2 years out of this data set. So our algorithms are no longer learning on the last 2 years, because the last 2 years basically were driven by government restrictions. Could you travel? Demand was up. Could you not travel? Demand was down. Very simple. But that will not repeat. I mean, heaven forbid. That will not repeat again. So these last 2 days are worthless in terms of data. So what it makes much more important is forward-looking data. What is like, okay, I mean, maybe not what you just described, Philipp, is not a forward-looking data. This is a copycat data set, but there are many forward-looking data sets available. One is your own, like how many bookings do you have for a future date? Another one is the website, there's airport traffic, and so on and so forth. And also, like many data providers now provide aggregated demand sets for a destination, which are very helpful in forecasting or using forward-looking data like a forecast, so to speak.
Okay, thank you.
But the common mistake I usually hear from hoteliers, they think that by buying a revenue management system, everything is going automatically. No. Okay. So it might be in a few years, I don't know, but still there needs to be an operator. Somebody needs to feed the system with knowledge. So data, you know better the destination, you know better the events, you know better what happens in your area. If you don't succeed to enter the system and learn the system or how you operate it, then artificial intelligence won't be able. Am I right? In fact, you need to be operating those systems. Don't be afraid of the systems. There are levels of usage of such systems. There might be professionals that do this job for years, but also individual hotels can be involved in revenue management step by step, and they can build a good strategy in marketing and also in later stages pricing strategy.
There are especially there are many challenges in Turkish tourism market that affects the forecast that these revenue management systems, because it's a very different country and it's not very predictable, let's say. So that that's where the experience comes in of the revenue manager and the marketing department as well. Anyways,
maybe we should ask the audience. Did anyone, let's say, invested in whatever new digitalization tools, check-in, maybe also revenue management, maybe upselling in the last 2 years? Was there any investments?
Actually, there is a small property in Adana,
Mm-hmm.
and I have changed the system completely to online system, including all those automations and the other digitalized things.
And I guess you're pretty happy right now. Yeah.
We're happy with that, definitely.
That would be the second question. So, all right, very cool, you invested. And then are you happy with it? And mainly the people are.
But the question also is, did you have anything before that?
Yeah, we didn't
No.
have. We have
Now,
a bunch of different systems trying to work together, but
okay,
not working.
okay,
I deleted them all. I mean, I changed them all to only one system.
okay. So you did the all-in-one solution. So I'm just saying that because I do have hoteliers that didn't have anything. I'm from the booking engine part, for example. And a competitor, I went to a hotel which had a competitor, and I asked him, how do you convert? Very fine, everything was perfect. But the question was, what did you have before? Nothing. Of course, if you don't have anything in your website and you automatically add a booking engine, of course you will get traffic, of course you will get bookings. But the main thing is how you will work and specialize the booking engine or the channel manager or the revenue management system in order to work for you and, let's say, increase this revenue or expand your digital board, okay?
well, Theo, since you have opened up the issue of direct bookings, increasing the direct bookings, and you are an expert on that, I would like to ask some questions about, it has been discussed in the earlier panel about the rate parity, how to preserve rate parity issue. I'd also like to discuss debatable issue of the billboard effect and the cannibalization. I'm not sure whether that's too much of asking in one question. But let's start with the rate parity. How to maintain the rate parity? What are the tools?
Okay, there are tools in the booking engine where you can get rid of the rate parity. First of all is personalization, the loyalty system that can also individual hoteliers adapt to their sales. So let's talk about the big elephants, Booking.com, Expedia, Hotel Beds, are checking with robots the prices. Don't imagine that somebody enters manually, they put somebody from your personnel and they check manually a specific search in a specific period. They have some robots, so they put robots in order to check the URL, the link of the booking engine, in fact, in order to check the prices. So there are ways through the booking engine to get rid of this with promo codes, with member-oriented prices, with a loyalty scheme. So there are ways to achieve that. The cannibalization of the pricing, of course, is something in between the channel manager at the same time. If you're using a channel manager, then you are more secure that the prices are common to all the OTAs that you are running. Of course, there are still, let's say, wholesalers that will take the price and still you will find a problem in sales by finding a reservation that have a price that you never have uploaded before in your channel manager. So usually they make test bookings just to see from where this booking is coming from, but this will never, let's say, not exist. You will always face a problem with rate parity in some wholesalers who are selling worldwide.
I think from a channel management perspective, it's more the question of, do you want it or do you don't? Like, is it a rate parity, or are you not in rate parity because it is your strategy to be cheaper on your own homepage, or is it a rate parity issue because there's some rate leakage somewhere? And the first one is obviously your choice, because you're doing an active choice of saying, like, I don't want to be in rate parity, or I want to be on rate parity to Booking.com on the Genius rate, not on the rack rate.
Let me maybe add one thing here, because
Yeah,
talking
sure.
about genius is totally fine. So we all know genius. We're all geniuses. This is like the one and only loyalty program where you never lose your status, right? So
Exactly.
Miles and More grabbed my status away in the last 2 years because I was not flying. So now I need to fly again to get back, right? I'm still booking Genius. So this will never crash. So
Level
we get this-
65, no?
yeah. So we get the Genius, right? Discount number one. Now we're talking about maybe mobile rates, which can add another minus 10%, right? So another
Yeah. 15.
15, 10 to 15, and maybe we allow our guests to pay with the virtual credit card, and then we get a Genius discount, a mobile discount, and a booking pace, and the commission. And now it's hard. Now it's hard
know,
to keep parity or to keep your brand lower, right?
Yeah, and I think this is exactly the decision. But I think you need to know where you are. You need to know your cost, and particularly, I think, if from Booking.com 70% of your bookings come through Genius rates, I mean that's your rate. That is your rack rate. If it's 70% of the bookings, and we've seen hotels where 70% of the bookings come through Genius. That means great, Genius is working, but don't let Booking tell you that some other rate that they sell occasionally is your real rate to compare it to.
Yeah, there is too much.
You pay 50% discount from your prices, and then you make revenue. This is the
The other way around.
Yeah, but what is your cost?
Well, there is too much of a manipulation there, I believe, and and the booking, the OTA guys say and support themselves with the billboard effect, right? They say, well, the customer is looking and selecting your hotel from our webpage, and they go in. Some of them go into your web. That's around 40%. They say so. I'm not sure whether that's a credible number, but 40% of the people that are searching at the Booking.com, let's say, come and go to the hotel web page, and some of them also reserve directly from the web page. So that's their discussion. And the opposite of that is also true. And some of this research is also funded by OTAs such as Expedia. So they are not that credible, but they say there is also the cannibalization. Some of the people who are your loyal guests, they book through Booking.com, and you lose direct business. How can we manage this issue? How can we improve the billboard effect, and how can we minimize the cannibalization of our own customers to churn through other OTAs?
I would answer like the nice gentleman there. Give 50% discount through the official website, but okay. But this is not the case. So it's not about discounts all the time. So when somebody enters your official website, he wants an experience. So many of the speakers today talked about personalization and how you can, let's say, increase your direct revenue. One is upsell. So why, let's say, give a 5% discount and not give, let's say, a bottle of wine upon arrival? Differentiate your product from the OTAs. So not only you will achieve that you get a direct client, but you will have a satisfied client. And giving him an experience is the main thing that you need to aim from your official website. That is why, from the booking engine part, we are not talking about room prices only, not prices that you sell also in OTAs, but I'm talking about package deals, maybe combined experiences with accommodation. It might be extras, things that you do at the hotel. If it's a big hotel like this, spa maybe. So there are ways to capitalize the presence of a booking engine, of a channel manager, of a revenue tool, and get the price that you want. So the thing that you need to correct as hoteliers is not to think about the price and discount all the time. Not only for Booking.com or Expedia, and they are not competitors. One more thing, because I heard in English translation. So Booking.com, Expedia are not, in fact, your competitors. You need to see them as your direct advertisement. So if you reach to understand how Booking or Expedia is working, you can translate that at the same time in your official website.
I think the way I would also look at this, if you're talking about cannibalization, I mean, cannibalization of whom versus whom? Because one question is, like, how big is your total cake? How many reservations do you get at what ADR? And in my hypothesis is that this fight between direct bookings and OTAs, this does not change the size of the cake. Like, somebody that wants to book with you either books through Booking.com or books direct. But it's not, there's all of a sudden 10 new people coming up that want to book with you just because you have your own webpage or a booking engine on your own webpage. If you don't have a booking engine, they'll probably still book with you just through Booking.com. So the question here is, how many of these reservations can you effectively get off the OTAs onto your direct channels? Either if they're repetitive customers, you have your marketing with them, they come directly to your homepage through search engine optimization, through marketing, through all the meta channels, and so on and so forth, or by that effect of they come from an OTA to your homepage and they stay there. But essentially, if the cake is not bigger, it's a cost and it's a commission issue, and then is really the question: how much do you spend on those direct bookings?
Or Claudio, if the question is, I reverse the question: why didn't they book, or why they book? Why didn't they book? So you need to understand: didn't they book direct? Yes. Why did they enter in the website and they didn't book? Is it a matter of pricing? You find the solution. It's a matter of experience. You find the solution. You are the ones that need to find the solution for your own hotel, because you know which is your competitive advantage into the rest of the hotels.
I just think, I think it's important to understand, for me it's important to understand that a booking that came through Booking.com is not, this commission you pay is not in that sense lost, because this is a reservation you have, and you should essentially pay as much to get it direct. Your cost to acquire the last direct booking should be as much as the commission is on Booking.com, because you still, having a direct booking gives you direct access to the client, gives you this email address, gives you the possibility to upsell, and so on and so forth. There are many more advantages than just saving the commissions. So if you really want to get direct, you can spend and still make as much money, much more on direct bookings.
Well, thank you guys. That was an important insight. Without violating the rate parity, you can offer some maybe intangible benefits at your website for the customers. I'm sure Kemal Bey is doing it already. I know that some hotels in Sultanahmet are offering free airport transfers, for instance. Not making discounts, but free airport transfers. The last question goes to you, Philipp, if that's all right for you. We have talked about machine learning and these systems that might operate, and Theo had a comment about that. I want your views about the future of this profession, revenue management as a profession. What do you see there?
Mm-hmm. I guess, Theo, you bust in the hashtag AI, that this will overtake a lot. I totally agree that AI will overtake a lot, but a lot means not everything, and that's the most important part. That's the most important part. So what I believe is that for the future, around 80% will be handled in the future, not right now, but in the future, will be handled by AI in regards to revenue management, in regards to pricing decision. But there's 20% left, and I think it's the easiest way to explain that is a sentence called: we don't need robots, we need drones. So what do I mean with that sentence? Talking about a robot is completely 100% the robot itself. He thinks itself, he does everything itself. Similar to an autopilot. So imagine we got a pricing autopilot. The autopilot helps us that we don't go too high, that the air is getting thin, that we cannot breathe, and helps us that we don't crash, right? But this is the 80%. Coming back to the robot and drone thing, it's nice that we have an autopilot and robot who is flying, who is helping us, but in the end, we need a drone, and a drone is tackled tactic-wise and strategy-wise by a human brain. And this is the other 20% I see there. And please also and always consider that these days where most of the money is behind cannot be handled by an AI. Because the AI is a deep learning and a machine learning process and will not help you if there is something really special and tremendous different comparing to all the other days happening. So 80-20, I would say.
Okay, guys, well, I guess there is an eye contact from your hand.
There's an AI contact?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Great